best in the league. They've given up 21 power play goals. Adam Fox carrying the puck. All the way. Fox to the net. He scores! Adam.
High fly ball to left. Is it going to be enough? Back at the wall. Game time. In. Rose quickly ahead to Barrett. One man to beat. Goes up and throws it down. R.J. Barrett with authority. And the game is tied. Richie Barrett.
Oh man, Jimmy boy, you get me down. I was trying to get over this, and you bring me right back to the scene of the crime.
They left us too soon, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, they did, man. I just landed, just got back in town.
I'm so sorry for your loss, and just everybody out there, remember to like and subscribe and get the alerts on our podcast, please. Mike, before we get on to some more of the sad stuff in the game, I think we ought to talk a little bit about some of the fun you had hanging out with fellow Cowboy fans. Yeah.
No, we did, and I tell you, that's the hard thing in the season. Has had such great time with Cowboys Nation. I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures and some of the interactions I've had through the years, through the season, I should say, and it's tough because we had a great time, and there's nothing like Cowboys fans. It's this past year, going to all the games, made a lot of new friends, met a lot of new people, and so it started off great, man. It was, we were rocking. We got there early. Everyone was feeling good. And, I didn't put it on YouTube, but if you're on Twitter, you saw it. But if you're not, I even did a hype video. We did a ceremonial shot for good luck, get things rolling. And so we all felt good going to the game. I mean, we're pumped and ready.
Yeah, it's, I saw a lot of the stuff on Twitter. It looks like you had a good time. And that's, like you said, the big part of it. Getting out of Tampa, getting into, Dallas, where you're surrounded by Cowboys fans. And that's always a fun part of it, Similar situation with me going to Falcons games. It's nice hanging out with, other fans.
It becomes family.
Yeah. Speaking of that hype video on Twitter, I'd like to play that right now if we could.
Ready? Let's go Cowboys! Go Cowboys!
Woo! Now let's talk about it right now. We are at AT&T. I'm partying with Cowboys Nation. We're all hanging out. We get ready for these 49 coming to our house, talking all that shit. It's going to stop very shortly. So bring that bully ball all you want, because you already know what's going to happen. The bully's going to get bullied. Zach's going to be doing his thing. We're going to get hyped. After that, we're going to be partying and Texas Live with Cowboys Nation.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool video, man. I watched it the other day.
When you're that hype, how do you lose, right?
Exactly. I know. Well, plus it was funny watching everybody else filming you, doing a live hype video.
Well, that was the thing. It had a great time at the tailgate and hanging with all. I don't want to leave anyone out, so I don't want to mention names, but the fun we had, and it was my first playoff game to see the Cowboys. It was, AT&T. I mean, if you would have told me that the results were going to be the way they were, I would have said there's just no way. I mean, I was pretty confident we'd win, but if we lost, I thought obviously our offense would have put up a much better performance, and maybe it would have been a shootout or just something crazy. I know we crawled back in it, but we really need to get into it. So what I really want to get with you on is you had the perspective from the TV, and you're not a Cowboys fan, so you're looking at it objectively. You're not biased. You don't have, the filters on that some Cowboy fans do. I was there at the stadium. It's a little bit different watching it live. I don't have the ability for replay where there are bad calls or this and that. So, I mean, really, what was your first initial? Let's just go in the beginning. We win the coin toss. We want to put our defense on the field first to send a message, and we know what happened. What was your thoughts on it, or what they say?
No, I think it's a smart move. I mean, anytime I always like deferring and getting the kickoff in the second half, but in that situation, hindsight's 20/20. I think last week you said Garoppolo. You really didn't think much of him, and you wanted to put the ball in his hands. And we'll start with him because he was a non-factor.
Yeah,
I mean,
that worked out, right?
That worked out. I think they won. The Niners won in spite of Garoppolo. I mean, he had the one wide open guy on a big third down in the fourth quarter, blew the pass. Yeah. Horrible interception. I think Dak ran it in. That was the one where Dak ran it in. So Garoppolo was a non-factor. I think the biggest concerns were penalties. You guys took way too many penalties. I think maybe 90 yards worth.
Yeah,
roughly. That and Dak looked like Matt Ryan running for his life. What was it? It was like 4 sacks, 5 sacks.
4 sacks.
But it was just the hurries.
Yes, and that was a concern. I think we talked about a little bit is the line of scrimmage, and can we hold up at the line of scrimmage on offense, and can our defensive line hold up and stop the run? And neither one of those happened. And to me, that was the difference in the game. And, the penalties, they play a factor. I've never blamed a game on penalties. I'm sure there's bad calls going both ways. So you hope it evens itself out. But it's been a bad thing with penalties. And the odd part about it is the coaches, that always gets back to the coaches, right? It's a lack of discipline, and that always starts at the top. And looking at McCarthy, what was curious is every year he was in Green Bay, they were one of the least penalized teams. And then he goes to Dallas, and they're the most penalized team. So is it coaching? Is it philosophy? Is it him? Is it, you can't put your finger on it. It's just one of those things it was a year for them of penalties, and I think it cost them in a lot of games, and it definitely reared its ugly head in this one. And I think this game was kind of a microcosm of the season with bad starts. And in that first quarter, we gave up that touchdown, but our defense, for the most part, held their own.
Yes,
I mean, it was bend, don't break. They didn't kill us on the run till a little bit later, when Debo kind of got that one in the short field. But we held the run in check for the most part. It was an ugly game. San Francisco was doing everything they could to give us the game.
Yes.
At least my perspective, I don't know if you agree. It seemed I couldn't believe that the score was as close as it was going into the fourth quarter. It just seemed like we were dominated.
Well, when Bosa got hurt, I said, "Wow, okay, that's going to play a factor." And honestly, he got hurt, and then one or two other guys up on their line got hurt, but there was no transition. There was no. They were still getting a ton of pressure on Dak, and I was kind of surprised at that. Next man up. I thought for sure you guys would take advantage of that or be able to take advantage of that, and it didn't happen.
And it's frustrating because again, going back to the line, it's our center. He got dominated. Connor Williams was, the penalties with him rearing its ugly head. He got dominated. We just could not contain them, and we had no running game. Didn't even try and run the ball at some point.
Well, and I think too, with Dak getting hurried and sacked, that's where that interception came into play. Deep in your territory, and then Debo Samuel, which I thought was a pitch right, he ended up running a counter. And I said, "Oh God, wow!" But that's what led to it.
Yeah, no, he's good, and he was going to be a factor. And I thought until that play, I thought we contained him pretty well. He didn't kill us. Nothing really killed us. I think we killed ourselves. And it's just, it's puzzling to me, and we can get into it a little bit as we move on. But to touch on with our offense, we're rated number one offense in the league. But looking back, it's when you watch the games, it doesn't look like the number one offense in the league. I think we've had some big games, but it just never seems like for most of this year, for at least the half part of the year, we could ever get in a rhythm. And that's where I talk about Kellen Moore. Is he ready for big time? He's touted as a great play developer and creates these cool plays and stuff. But the rhythm of the game, is that where he's lacking? Is that what's hurting us? And what can we do about that moving forward? If he stays, if he goes, there's just so much. Like I said, we'll get into that part after the game. But it just was the same old thing. And we always hope. And I think with the talent that we have, you're talking about CD and Amari and, Cedric Wilson, who had a nice season. And with our running game, you had Pollard, who's healthy. You had Zeke, who admitted after the game he's been dealing with a torn, patella tendon. How does Pollard not get more involved? The one series he was in, they scored a touchdown, whether, for whatever reason or whatever you want to call it, luck or the way it was, but it happened. And we never got him involved. And I just don't understand the thought process. And maybe you can, as an outsider, was the broadcast saying anything about it? Did you notice? Were you puzzled by the same thing?
It was crazy because that Boomer Esiason was saying that you guys just couldn't get into a rhythm. Exactly what you're saying. And it was true. Yeah. But again, it's because, we've said before, we're not going to get into X's and O's, but the 49ers are running stunts like crazy and just, again, what are you going to do if you're Dak Prescott?
Yeah.
You're going to be forced into doing things you don't want to do.
Exactly. And I don't want to put it on, everyone can share blame. Dak is going to get the lion's share of it. He holds the ball every offensive play, so it's always going to come down to the quarterback.
But again, though, being a Falcons fan and a Matt Ryan fan, I can relate because he's always getting, he's always running for his life. And that hasn't happened in a lot of your games this year. I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming yesterday.
No, it was a concern, but again, I thought we'd hold it. I thought we'd held up. I thought we'd hold them up and we'd allow the time to get our playmakers the ball. But then that comes to adjustment. And what did the offensive coordinator, what did the Cowboys do to adjust? And it just didn't seem like they adjusted. We got some stuff going, right? When Brown got the pick, and then, Dak scores. And hopefully I'm right. Again, I just got back in town, so I don't even want to watch the game, so I'm not going to. But I know we got within 6 points. Dak gets the ball with 2:56 or 2:46, whatever it was, 3 timeouts. I'm going to tell you, there wasn't a doubt in my mind that we're going to figure it out and we're going to score. The only thing that was going on in my mind is how much time's going to be left. Are we going to be able to leave enough time, little time so they can't get down the field because we'd only be up 1 and I'm trying to kick a winning field goal. I just thought as bad as that game was and as bad as they played, and this is, you go back to Dak and he's the franchise quarterback. He had the ball in his hands with just under 3 minutes, 3 timeouts. You expect him to drive down the field. And that's what being a high-paid, quarterback at that upper tier, you expect it's like what Michael Irvin said. In these big games, the soldiers got to show up. And if you really look at the numbers, none of our soldiers on offense showed up. And that's, in the playoffs, that's really what it comes down to. Look at Mahomes, look at Brady. Yeah. Look at the stars on the team. They all had a big part in their wins. And that's unfortunately, just being honest, that's what hurt Dallas yesterday.
And you talk about the rhythm. You're right on that final drive. Well, second to last drive when they had the ball with under 3 minutes left, there was nothing. There was no rhythm, nothing at all. You had 3 incomplete passes in a row. This is crazy.
And then anytime they got something, it was a penalty, like you said, during the game. Every time they got something going, it was a penalty. And I think my numbers are wrong, but it was a high number. It might have been 8 or 7 or 8. But I think 7 or 8 of our penalties converted into first downs for them. So it kept drives alive for them. So it was a constant shoot yourself one step forward, two steps back for them all game. And, it was really disappointing. It's something that there's a lot of anger out there in Cowboys Nation. I've stayed off social media a little bit. I'm getting roasted on TikTok. I'm getting destroyed on the videos I put on YouTube. Twitter's been kind to me. Those are so far away that I haven't heard much on that. But so I'll take my lumps because, like I tell people, I'm going to talk trash. I'm man enough. If it don't work out, I always talk it before the game. If it don't work out, I know what's coming. And thankfully, I only had one incident after the game. That was unfortunate, but I had to set a guy straight.
Yeah, you know what? And it's good though. Like you said, you've been a Cowboys fan since I've known you, since Tom Landry days, and again, you got to support your team. You're not going to back down. I see some people calling you out on Twitter over the weekend. Nothing, not TikTok like, but enough. And we had to set them straight a little bit. But again, they're keyboard tough guys.
Well, that's what it is. And I had a guy after the game. The Niners were happy, and he put a camera. He's tried to record as the Cowboy fans are walking out. So he was trying to record me walking out. So you know what I had to do, right?
Oh boy, get that camera out my face.
That's what I said. Get that camera out my face. I want to be alone. And then they just gave me some blank stare.
You said, I told him to get him out of my face.
That would have been the next one. But, and really, it's been the story of this franchise. It's been the story of this franchise for the last 25 years. And you'd think I'd become numb to it. But I felt so good about this team. I felt good about the matchups. I felt good about kind of our bracket seating of where we're going to have to go. Like I tell people, you never want to look ahead, but you do. I mean, we're all human. You look at where you got to go. You're saying, man, if we get past San Francisco, we play Tampa. They're a little banged up. Weather should be good. We had we're a different team when we played them and we hung with them. They're actually, I think, a little bit worse than they were when we played them. So you would have liked your chances there. And but unfortunately, all the smack talk and all the stuff, it's hard for me to argue the Cowboys will be the Cowboys and they're, in the playoffs. We just haven't had that success for whatever reason. So we get that, someday it's going to get over the hump, and it just, it's just going to make it sweeter. It just makes it sweeter when it happens. I think this core of this team's good. I think there's going to be changes. I think that we're going to need to shore up the line. I think we're going to need to add some pieces on defense. And hopefully with draft, free agency, there are probably going to be some tough decisions to be made on some of our own guys. But I think we'll be back.
Well, I'm already reading, is McCarthy going to be out? I mean, who's going to get the blame placed on him? How?
And that's what I don't understand. And I know there's a lot of McCarthy haters. And I'm not saying he's the greatest coach. I think he's done a good job changing the culture of the team. I think when you looked at what Garrett had and the way that we were run and the accountability, I think he brings a level of that. I'm more concerned about the offensive coordinator. If you're going to fire McCarthy and you're going to make Kellen Moore your offensive coordinator or your head coach, he hasn't proven himself as the coordinator. I mean, there's a lot of questions you can and criticism you can give him on his play calling throughout the year. And is he ready? But he's Jerry Jones' guy. And this was my concern when they hired McCarthy. I wanted a clean slate. Bring your guys in. It's just, how can McCarthy, and McCarthy will always say, and he said it publicly, I wanted Kellen Moore. I don't know if I necessarily believe it. If you're going to hire a coach, you got to let him have his guys, good or bad.
Of course.
Tough thing, a tough decision or not. You got to let him have his guys. That way, he's going to succeed or fail with his guys. There's no between. Because if you take Kellen Moore, it's almost like when we had Wade Phillips and you had Jason Garrett there, and it was Jason. Jerry Jones brought in Jason Garrett, and so if you're Kellen Moore, where's the respect level? And I'm sure he does, but ultimately, where's the respect level going to lie? Jerry Jones is the one who wanted me here. I hired the coach, and I told the coach that you come with it. Kellen Moore's respect's going to be to Jerry Jones. He's the boss, right? You stepped over the chain of command.
Well, but it's like it's like anything. So you wanted to start a show. Now, what would you paired with somebody you don't really know or haven't met? That's not going to work, right? And I think that was a bad decision on Jerry Jones's part. You got to let the head coach bring in his guys.
Yeah. And he's got his offensive guys are on the staff. They're just not the coordinators.
Right.
But McAdoo's experience. The other guys, slipping my mind, but he has his people there. And he brought in. He's been one to make. Nolan was a bad decision. Fired him. They bring in Quinn. Now, I don't know if Quinn is going to stick around. He's probably got head coaching opportunities. Yes. It seems like Denver's hot on him. He was your coach in Atlanta.
Yes. I love him as a coach.
I think he does a good job, but sometimes these coordinators don't make great head coaches, and that's the one thing they've got to, hopefully he considers and hopefully he stays.
I loved him as a coach, and ironically, speaking of Kyle Shanahan, if he doesn't make horrendous play calls in the second half of the Super Bowl, we win. What are you throwing in the second half up 28-3? So again. Quinn was a great coach. He was a great coach. But at that point, being the head coach, he should have said, "Hey, whoa, what are we doing here?" You step in and say, "We got to run the ball."
Yeah.
So to your point, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
If I'm in your shoes,
to the Broncos, it seems like that's going to be the destination from what everyone's saying.
So, I guess we'll see what happens over the next few days.
Well, and another concern, that I'd have with Jerry is, again, with McCarthy. Now it's come out, Stephen Jones said he expects him back. I think Stephen Jones carries a lot of weight within the organization now. I think he gets to Jerry because, if Jerry had his way, Johnny Manziel would be on this team. Thankfully, I give Jones credit for that. And I think that if Jerry had his way, I don't know if Jason Garrett would have been fired because Jerry really liked him, but I think maybe Steven stepped in and made that happen. I hope they don't make a head coaching change. Now, if you're going to get me a top-notch coach, experienced coach that has a lot of offensive, that's going to bring something to the table, okay. If anywhere you can upgrade, I'm never going to argue it. But I don't think it's an upgrade from McCarthy to Kellen Moore. I think it's a downgrade, and I think it's going to step us back even more. I mean, if you look at Kellen Moore, his mentor was Scott Linehan. He was a terrible offensive coordinator for us. Then he was under the Garrett tree, and Garrett just wasn't he was the 8-8 coach for us. So we're getting past that. I'd much rather see Kellen Moore go. I could talk about that all day. It's my personal opinion. We'll see what happens. But, there was other football. So let's talk a little bit about the other playoff games because I tell you, after the game, we had it set. We thought Cowboys were going to win. I said, we're going to go to Texas Live. We're going to party it up. As soon as that game was over, I was looking at my buddy Jeff, who, we went to the game. It was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, done.
I'm getting back to the hotel. If there was a flight that I could have left that night, I would have flown out. But, we ended up getting to the cab, and it was, we were gone. Everyone was disgusted.
You deflated.
So it was deflated, but it was just so disappointing because the season was just everything felt so good. Like I said, hanging with the fan. It was just such a memorable season. You hate for it to end that way, and to end that way, it's just tough to get over. Now, hey, we're all big boys. I'm not going to sit here and cry. The Cowboys stuff's in my room. That's staying. I'm a Cowboys fan till the day I die. My son sent me a text. He's like, Dad, he goes, it's too hard to be a Cowboys fan. I said, well, at age 17, if you're going to jump ship, you might do it now. Do it now because, but he stayed on. He was just upset. He's unfortunately lived through his years are these years that have been the most disappointing because you had the 2014, the 2016, the 2018. I think hopefully I got all these years right. But you had some of these teams with Romo, and then the early year with Dak, and then the other one with Romo where we thought we were gonna make something happen, and it's just playoff disappointment. And it's just the one thing I meant to say, so I don't want to backtrack, and because I want your opinion on it. There's the old urban legend with the Cowboys is, and Jerry Jones said this, so this is factual. When he fired Jimmy Johnson, he had said that he prayed and he said, God, you give me one more Super Bowl title, I'll never ask for another one. And lo and behold, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is we don't, we got that one in 95. You've seen it. We don't lose the play. It ain't like we lose the playoffs and, where Cincinnati is. We get our hearts ripped out. We lose by the worst possible way. The Dez no catch, that 3rd and 18 with Aaron Rodgers and AT&T. This game, I mean, the Giants game, number 1 seed. The guys are in Cabo, messing around. They come in and a 9-7 wild card team just beats them. I mean, we lose in the worst possible ways, and I think that's what made Cowboy fans so distraught after these losses because they just rip the heart right out of you when we lose.
Well, especially yesterday. I mean, you get the ball back. Like, wow, he was short, And you said, well, there's a little life here. And then that crazy ending where, Dak tried to spike the ball. And you're like,
how? I mean, I don't know. I get the play. Well, let me be clear about that. I get the play of trying to get closer because I'm not a big Hail Mary guy. I much would have, if they could have got 20 yards and then you can actually run, you can run a design play in the end zone, get a short, do whatever. I think I like those chances better. But one, Dak's got to know the time. And he also has to know the rule. And the rule is the referee's got to touch the ball. Yeah. That was the killer for him. But he might have, he maybe slide, 5 yards earlier, hold the ball, hand it to the ref, get everyone lined up, spike it, and go. The other thing they had talked about, but there wasn't enough time because when he spiked it. But the other thing they had talked about was you yell 911. That means there's not enough time to even spike it. We're going to run a play, get your ass going, and just do something. They have a design play that's already set for that situation. But that's what it's the life of a Cowboys fan. So we all are in misery together. We all, after the game, we cry together. We get angry. I let everyone, let it all out, man, on Twitter, and they've all let it all out in the frustration, and I understand it, and we all get it. But just like anything, give me a few days. I'll be talking about the 2022 Cowboys. It's going to be our year. Look at the schedule. We got some winnable games there. We fill a few holes, and we're right back in the Super Bowl. That's the life of a Cowboys fan.
And sitting there watching the game yesterday, that last 2.5 minutes was like a basketball game. The last 2.5 minutes lasted forever, even for somebody who's not emotionally invested. Right? Yeah. And and I said, "Geez, man, this is taking forever." And it was just a comedy of, I don't say errors, but some errors, some craziness, and I haven't seen a wild finish like that in a long time.
No, and like I said, it just happened to the Cowboys. And then I don't know, did they even show it on TV? The fans were throwing water bottles and just everything they could at the referees. Can't do that.
Sounds like professional wrestling.
I know. I mean, as much as you want to let out that frustration, I mean, you can't do it. I mean, it's not a good look for our team. No. It's not something you want to be as a fan base. But I understand the frustration. It was there was some calls that like I said, but I think it evens itself out. There were some questionable calls, but at the end of the day, we got to be more disciplined. Randy Gregory on that one defensive hold. I mean, it was there, and he didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
The down and distance. The urgency, the time. Those are just plays that we can't let happen, and we just did, and that summed it up. And the Niners, tell the caller from last week, hey, congrats, he got one over on me, they won, but I knew they weren't going to be a pushover. It was going to be a dogfight, and I just thought, man for man, we had more talent, and I always believe in the playoffs more often than not, the talent takes over in the big games. And like I said, our soldiers, to Michael Irvin's point, they didn't rise to the occasion that game, and it's just unfortunate. So
I'll tell you, we let him off the hook. We let him off the hook.
One guy said we let him off the hook. And I saw one of the reporters said he felt like Denny Green in that,
Yeah.
But there were some other games.
Yeah.
I didn't get. I hung out with some Cowboy fans on Saturday. Watched some of the game. Were you able to catch any of the other games?
So what we had? Obviously like we called last week, Kansas City whooped up on Pittsburgh.
Oh.
I mean, although Kansas City, they came out flat initially, but then turned the dial up, and that was that. I think, there was a defensive touchdown for Pittsburgh right off the top.
J.J. Watt, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the other thing that sticks with with Cowboys fans is I was at that draft in Philadelphia, and J.J. Watt was there. We had Ron Marinelli was our defensive coordinator, and he pounded the table for Taco Charlton. He was a better fit for our scheme, and we took Taco, and Pittsburgh was next, and they took T.J. Watt.
Yeah.
And man, the rest is history. We're living with that one, but the draft is always you're always going to have that. But that one hurt. That one hurt because you see how good he is. He's unbelievable. He's definitely the defensive player of the year. I don't know how, Parsons had a good year, but I just don't know how you can put anyone above him.
Yeah. And, but that's all they had, and then it was off to the races for the Chiefs after that. Who else? Tampa. Oh, again, another game we called last week, Philly, Tampa Bay,
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of it because I was at a tailgate. There was a TV, so I was peeking at it. I figured Tampa was going to handle them.
They were up 31-0 at one point.
Yeah, and they let them get some garbage points. But I was surprised because the weather in Tampa, it was really windy.
Yeah.
And I thought that maybe that might be an equalizer. But, you can't underestimate Brady, especially in the playoffs, whether they're down guys or not. He's a competitor. And I didn't think, obviously there was no way I thought Philadelphia would be able to take them. So that was a predictable game. And then you had, the first one was the Raiders and the Bengals. That was interesting. That was a little bit of a battle. I thought maybe the Raiders had a shot, but I think maybe they kind of used all that energy up in that play-in game Sunday night against the Chargers.
Yeah, they could have been, having a hangover off of that one.
Yeah.
And I know you're big on Burrow. He looked good.
Yeah.
The Bills and Patriots. I didn't see that coming. Not that.
No, I didn't see the beating that the Bills gave, and again they talked about those $40 million quarterbacks. So you got Allen, you got Mahomes, and you got Dak, and Allen showed up. You got to give it to him, man. That dude was on fire, and he was like the old thing is a one-man wrecking crew. He was.
But it's like I said, they find ways to win. But he has his moments where he'll turn the ball over. He was perfect the other night. But so you never know what you're going to get next week.
Yeah,
well, they play the Chiefs, right?
They play the Chiefs. Now that's a matchup.
Yes.
You think about it. You got what do you have? The Chiefs going against the Bills, and now you have Tennessee against the Bengals.
Yeah.
And that it almost Tennessee's the 1 seed, but it's almost like the old days of that Chiefs Bills might be the showcase of the AFC Championship game. The winner of that might end up representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. It just has that kind of feel.
Yeah, it did. And I guess we'll see. Tennessee. Think about it. It's like you pointed out last week. They had a lot of injuries. Yeah. Everybody's healthy now.
No, they are.
And they were the number 1 seed in the first place. Now everybody's healthy.
It amazes me, and I don't want to underestimate him. I just, I'm waiting to see what Henry, if he's, works off that rust. If he gets hot, that's where he's the equalizer against any of those teams because he's a beast running that ball, and no one wants to tackle him. So I think they'll handle Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's scrappy.
Yeah,
they're not the Bungles and of old that we grew up watching. They got a good young team, and that's where, not to just make a quick jump back to the Cowboys, is you look at what these guys can do with their receivers, and then you see with our receivers, and it's been to be honest, a disappointment in our receivers and their production. But getting those opportunities have been disappointing, and not getting those attempts and those opportunities to make plays. That's what's hurt, jumping back to the Cowboys. That's what's hurt them, but that's what's helped Cincinnati. Burrow's getting that ball, to Chase. I mean, they're making big plays. They're well connected from LSU. So don't put nothing past them. So.
Okay, but talking about the Cowboys, it's like anything though. If you're not even trying to run the ball,
No.
the run sets up the pass. I don't care what anybody says. It's been like that forever. Even with running quarterbacks, you still need to establish some sort of running game.
Yeah, and that's where I think of it. Yeah, that killed the Cowboys, and I think that's where they're going to have to address that. And like I said, with Zeke's injury, hopefully maybe that was it. But he definitely, you'd be kidding yourself and you'd be dishonest to yourself if you say he didn't look like he's, dropped a step. And that Pollard, maybe Pollard needs that opportunity to get more touches. And maybe it's just going to be that 1-2 punch, and they're going to have to share the carries. And maybe that makes the team better. I mean, I was talking to, and we'll get back to the playoffs, but I was talking to some of the guys at the tailgate. Some of these players, some of these teams have played 21 games this year.
Yeah.
That is a lot of football.
It is.
You think about these rookies that were fighting for spots, and some of them who made it. They played 21 games. There's just, and even a running back. Let's say running backs played 17 games if they didn't touch the field in preseason or anything. That's a lot of that's a lot of football.
Yeah, it's a lot of beating.
Yeah, and so I think they're going to either the NFL. I think they should expand the rosters a little bit to give you more opportunity, because you saw it even with COVID and some of these injuries. They're picking up guys. I think that the Rams picked up Weddle. I don't know if he's played in a year or two.
Yeah.
They picked him up because they're just running out of bodies. So I think the NFL is going to have to really look at that and maybe expand the rosters a little bit. But but going to the NFC. So this is the one where the NFC, they said this is the favorites in the Super Bowl. So you've got an interesting matchup Saturday night at Lambeau, Niners, Packers, another rivalry from the 90s. That Cowboys, Packers, Niners. It kind of ran that course where they all kind of unseated each other and moved on to win the Super Bowl. That's going to be an interesting matchup with the injuries you mentioned to Bosa, and some of their guys on the defense. See how they come. I think Bosa will be fine. I think it might have been a concussion protocol. So I expect him to play, and I'm sure the other guys will play too. It didn't seem like anything serious, but that's going to be an interesting matchup Saturday night in Lambeau.
And the 49ers could have a hangover after yesterday's game. Yeah. I mean, you never know. Kind of like Vegas this week. They go in, they're all hype, and then it's just you're deflated at that point. That's, on the road. I mean.
At Lambeau, it's going to be cold. Now, everyone hypes Rodgers up. He has a losing record at Lambeau in the playoffs. Let's just call it for what it is. I'm not, you guys take it for what it's worth. But,
Mike Vick in Atlanta beat him up there.
Oh, absolutely. I think Eli Manning beat him up there. Brady beat him up there. I mean, there's been several teams that have taken it. So I think with the 49ers, they're just, to your point of being a great run team and how important that is. You even said it. Garoppolo, he was a non-factor, but he was effective enough where when he had to pass on third down, they made some big plays, and they made some key conversions, against us. Yeah. You can run the ball. That's all you need your quarterback to do.
It's like Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Right? Just a manager.
Yeah. And that's what Garoppolo does. And he's due for a turnover. We talked about it. He's going to give you one, and he gave us one. He should have gave us two. We had that one. I think it might have been I forgot who it was, but I know Brown was right there. I don't know which safety it was that tipped it, and it's almost like if he didn't tip it,
yes,
Brown could have got it. That would have been two. So he's always due to give you one or two turnovers. That usually is not a recipe for success unless you get turnovers, and of course they did get a turnover on us. But with Aaron Rodgers, he don't turn the ball over. I mean, He does not throw picks. Very rare. I think he has 4 this year, something like that.
Yeah, he doesn't throw into. He's not going to throw into tight coverage and make suicidal plays. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
he's smart.
Yeah, he is. And then who else? So we got.
You got Tampa and the winner. We got a game tonight of the
that's right.
Rams. We'll be posting this by the time you guys see this. It'll be Tuesday, so you'll know the winner. We're just gonna wing it and figure out which one it is. I I don't believe in Stafford, so I'm going to go on the limb and say I think it'll be the Cardinals and the Bucks. I don't know your take on it.
Yeah, but the Cardinals have been a mess for the last month.
Yeah.
So
they're supposed to be getting some guys back, right? Hopkins, I think, is supposed to be back. See if he plays, and I think J.J. Watt, I think he's a shell of himself, but he's still going to draw at least some respect, and some attention. But
he's not going to be
I'm not a believer in Stafford. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but it just seems like in the big games he's just never been able to deliver, and he proved it some this year. And I think he's, obviously with the Lions he's proved it. I know it's the Lions, but he had some, he had some weapons there too. I mean, he had Calvin Johnson there for most of your career.
Most of his tenure there. So
pardon me?
I know I said he was there for most of his tenure.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So
I don't know. I think the Rams are gonna win because despite the fact that Arizona's got some guys back, they've just been a mess for the last month.
Yeah, you don't know what to get. I mean, you don't know what to get. Murray's the X factor. So hey, we don't need to agree on everything, right? Yeah. So you can go with the Rams. I'll go with the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens. I think at the end of the day, I think the matchup. I think Tampa, as injured as they are, I think they'll get Fournette back next week. I think that'll help the ground game. I just don't think that either one is a great matchup for the Buccaneers and Brady. I think we would have been a better matchup. Of course, I'll say that I'm a Cowboys fan, but I think the Bucs will end up taking against either one of them. I think they'll have a harder time winning. Let's say if it is Stafford and the Rams, I think they might have a harder time winning because of the defense that the Rams have and the ability of Ramsey. He's going to take out Evans. He'll be a non-factor. They got Aaron Donald. They got Miller. They got the guys that can rush. Brady's a stationary guy. I think. Oh man, I guess I should have took my notes. I think the Rams handled them earlier in the season, if my memory's right. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean Tom Brady in the playoffs, and it's amazing that we're sitting here in 2022 still talking about him.
I know. I think he was. I think he was a starting quarterback when I moved up to before I got married. I've been married almost 20 years. Yeah. His whole life, man. It's crazy, that dude. He just don't stop. He might have been here before I moved up here, but it's going to be fun. I mean, it's disappointing that we're not in it. Part of me after the game is like, I'm done with football. I'm taking a break. I'll watch the Super Bowl. I'm not watching no more playoffs, but I'm a football fan, and so I'm going to tune in. I'm not rooting for anybody. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to see the Packers win because then I got to hear about Rodgers. I don't want to hear the 49ers win because I got to hear about their fans running their mouths. The Bucks. I live in Tampa, so I really don't want to hear about that. The Rams are so far away. I don't care about them, and they won't bother me much. They don't have much of a fan base. I think Cardinals too. So give me the Rams or the Cardinals in the Super Bowl, and I'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, and then what? We got the Pro Bowl, which nobody cares about. So, when's the Super Bowl? The 6th? February 6th, is it?
Yeah. The interesting thing with the Pro Bowl, I went a few years ago, Tank Lawrence, when I did my video the first time, so it would have been 2018, they did a contest, and he sent me out some Pro Bowl tickets. It just wasn't the game was okay, they don't care, but the interaction with the fans, I was a little disappointed. I thought they'd be more loose, and it'd just be more relaxed thing, but it really wasn't as good as I expected. It's in Vegas this year, so it's probably gonna be way over the top. So it probably, as a fan going there, it'll probably be worse. So really after the Super Bowl, the next big thing is going to the NFL draft, and
we got the draft, and then we'll probably start throwing in some NBA, NHL. Then
well, that's the thing. Now it's your time, man. It's gonna be your show. So I run my big mouth on the Cowboys and football. I take over all the talk. But now we're gonna get Jimmy D's personality, talk about NBA and NHL. I can mix it with some baseball, but
there's no lockout. Hopefully, there's no lockout.
Oh yeah. Well, baseball better not, because that's how you ruin the league. They did it before. Look what it took to get back.
Didn't learn their lesson, just like the NHL didn't learn their lesson.
Yeah.
I don't get it. This is stuff that shouldn't be, wait until the midnight hour to deal with. Get these collective bargaining agreements done a year in advance. Be done with it.
No, but then it's these, you know, the laborers and the owner. They just can't. They always got to just fight, and everyone's got to get. And you know, the players always end up winning. It seems like,
exactly.
Especially in baseball. Especially football is different. Football, for some reason, the union's not as strong in football.
No guaranteed
the owners
contracts.
end up winning for some reason.
Yeah.
But.
So, anyway, I think that's it for the week. Or do we got anything else? Yeah.
Well, I thank you, Jimmy. You know, you played my sorrow. You got the funeral out of the way. Now I can move on. But to all the Cowboy fans, Cowboy Nation, we're gonna be back. We're gonna be riding this thing. So just get the sorrow out of the way. Draft day will be here soon. We'll get this thing going. We'll figure out. Hopefully, our coaching situation settles in. We don't have any shake-up, and if it is, hopefully it's an improvement. But again, guys, guys and girls, I should say, like, subscribe, share. We're going to get this thing going. It's going to be dropping every week. We want to go live, so we're just kind of working out the kinks like we talked about before. We're going to get this thing going. We want to go live because we want the fan interaction because we're two fans. We love talking sports with fans. We just want to keep it real. So definitely keep following. I appreciate it. I'll give you guys one more before we sign out.